Did Naruto stop being about ninjas? This is a question I've seen for as long as I've been a Naruto fan, but it's been taken more and more seriously as we get new chapters of Boruto, a series where everyone is a half-alien monster that uses less hand signs and more laser attacks. And while I do see where people are coming from, this take relies on the most surface-level understanding of Naruto you can possibly have. So in this video, I'd like to examine this critique of Naruto's story, revisit what it's really about, and explain why Naruto never stopped being about ninjas at all. So in case you're not familiar with this argument, it goes something like this. When Naruto began, it was about ninjas. When people say that, they mean the characters were sneaky like ninjas. They went on sneaky missions like ninjas, and they used attacks like ninjas that actually use hand signs. But as time went on and the story progressed, the story became less about missions and hand signs and more about laser beams, aliens, and flashy transformations. Now, here's where I can sympathize with this take. In the beginning, I actually liked that the characters went on missions. I love the arc where they went and fought Zabuza. That was some serious ninja stuff. But when you look back, this was the extent of any real ninja missions per se. After that, we get the Shonen exams, which yeah, had some sneaky stuff in there, but it boiled down to a tournament arc. Then we get the next arc where Naruto and Jiraiya look for Tsunade and persuade her to return. Not really anything ninja about that. Then we get Sasuke retrieval, which is just the characters chasing Sasuke and a bunch of fights. That is the entirety of part 1, minus all the crap they threw in the anime. So when you really take a close look, saying Naruto was always about ninjas is a pretty open-ended statement. I mean, let's be real. Ninjas are sneaky and go on sneaky missions. That was a fraction of what happened in part 1. The rest of it was just like anything else from a battle series. A bunch of fights. And, oh my god, you know what happens in Boruto? A bunch of fights. So of course this is where people say, yeah, but now it's just DBZ basically. Before it actually used to look like ninja fights. And here's where we start to get into a similar criticism, where people claim that characters never use hand signs anymore. Which is a more credible claim, sort of, but just as tenuous. Actually, before I explain why that is, make sure to like the video if you're enjoying it so far. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it helps spread the video to other viewers like you. Now, the idea is that Naruto used to be about ninjas and now it isn't. And a big part of this, among other things, is because the fights aren't really between ninjas anymore. The characters don't fight like ninjas. Okay, so here's where we get into what I personally consider one of the worst takes in the anime community. And I say the anime or manga community because as far as I've seen, nobody else really cares about this like anime and manga fans do. Something that I see come up again and again is the word premise. People will judge a series based on the premise. They'll say, oh, the characters are cool and the art is good, but I don't really like the premise. What they mean by that is they don't like something about the world or the story or the genre or the general formula for the plot. So for example, in Bleach, people might say that they like the premise. In that case, the premise would be something like killing hollows. Or in Jujutsu Kaisen, people might say that it lost the premise because the story started out as a story about killing cursed spirits, and now it's just a bunch of fights between sorcerers. And here's why I think that is a dumb take. Stories are not about premises. They are about characters and the plot. Now, premise ties into plot, but it doesn't define plot. If anything, it might serve as the foundation for the themes that are explored. But that premise does not define what direction those themes are taken in. So let's take this in the context of Naruto. In Naruto, obviously the premise would be ninjas. It's a story about ninjas. Pretty simple. Now, tell me this. How much about the story of Naruto does that tell you? How much about the world and the struggles of the characters does that tell you about? Not a whole lot. That is because the premise is a fraction of the story. It tells you nothing about Naruto's self-doubt, nothing about Sasuke's self-loathing, nothing about the conventions of war that have influenced society in this world. All it tells you is that the characters use ninja attacks and do ninja stuff. And even in that case, what constitutes ninja stuff is pretty liberal. So at that point the question becomes, well, what is Naruto about really? So let me ask you this. Say someone asked you what Naruto was about. Or rather, you wanted to sell someone on Naruto. Would you say it's an anime about ninjas? Well, there's plenty of anime like that. Okay, maybe you might say it's an anime about ninjas that have all kinds of cool attacks. That's better, but there's plenty of anime with cool attacks. Alright, well, what about a story about a boy who wants to be a ninja and struggles to find acceptance because he has a demon inside him, but learns to be the inspiration he looks for in his own life? Now, that is much better. And in case you didn't notice, ninja was one small part of that description, and that's no accident. That is because ninjas are one part of what Naruto is all about. Sure, the plot revolves around ninjas, but it's about Naruto, it's about Sasuke, it's about the plot to stop World War III, it's about finding a way to build a world that isn't defined by warmongering. All things that are rooted in the ninja world, but don't rely on the ninja motif. So when you say Naruto is about ninjas, you are grossly oversimplifying the story and undermining everything else that makes the story special. Now, there is a conversation to be had as to the extent of how relevant these themes and characters are in the current story, but that is much different than saying, oh, Naruto isn't about ninjas anymore. As far as I know, it's still about overcoming obstacles and finding ways to grow. It's still about choosing peace over war. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but the core values are still there to some extent. So to say Naruto lost its way completely ignores what Naruto is really about. Now, at this point, hopefully you understand me by now. But maybe not. Maybe you're still not convinced. Maybe you're like, well yeah, the story is kinda the same, but the fights are completely different. It used to be about jutsus and taijutsu and actual ninja stuff, and now it's just Dragon Ball Z. Well, funny I should mention Dragon Ball, because you could say basically the same thing about Dragon Ball. Because Dragon Ball used to be about martial arts. Goku and Krillin would train with Roshi and use kicks and punches and all kinds of cool martial arts stuff. But fast forward and now it's all about Super Saiyans and Spirit Bombs and whatnot. And to that, all I have to say is, who the hell cares? Sure, maybe it gets a bit silly in the times of Super, but I love how the power levels continue to scale up. I love that the story gets weirder and weirder. I mean, how many stories do you know where the hero flies to space and gets into a super-powered karate match with an alien overlord? I love that about Dragon Ball. Sure, maybe it would have been cool to see it be something more like a karate or martial arts anime, but that's not the kind of story Toriyama wanted to tell. I love the fact that we get into a point where Goku and his friends are fighting against super-powered androids. Who cares if the androids aren't martial artists? They're still cool villains that have cool designs and powers and lead to great fights and storytelling. And the same is true for Naruto. I love that the characters get these weird abilities and transformations and can summon giant frogs. Would it have been nice if it was like the Sekiro of Shonen Jump or something? Maybe, but that wouldn't have been the Naruto Kishimoto wanted to make. And as you can tell, people like the way the story turned out. Now, you like the stories you like. So if you liked early Naruto for one reason and don't like the direction it takes, then by all means nobody can tell you you're wrong. But you cannot then say that Naruto lost its way, that it used to be one way and now it's not. To be fair, I'm not even trying to defend Boruto. In fact, I'm not even the biggest Boruto fan. But please don't say Naruto used to be about ninjas when, let's face it, ninjas were barely a part of the story in the first place. It's still about Naruto, it's still about war and death, and it's still got cool fights. Maybe they don't look the way you want them to, but stop saying a story is bad because it didn't turn out exactly how you wanted it to. So now I'd like to hear what you think. Is Naruto still about ninjas? Where do you stand on this? Share your thoughts and see what everyone else has to say down in the comments. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week on my community tab. And if you'd like another discussion like this one, then make sure to check out my video on bad manga. In that video, I explain how bad manga can ruin good anime adaptations. You can find that video in the playlist linked right here. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.